Hi, my name is Jackie Powers, and I'm going to talk about the identification and prevention of harassment in the workplace. Harassment can be defined as unwanted behavior in which one finds offensive and leaves one feeling intimidated and humiliated. Harassment can be based on race, color, religion, sex, national origin, age, disability, or genetic information. Harassment can also be found in the workplace, whether it be from coworkers, supervisors, or even clients. Harassment does not always have to look like these specific categories. There can be lots of blurring between the lines, and it can still be considered hostile behavior if you feel threatened by it. It is important to identify when harassment has occurred in the workplace. Once said harassment has been identified, it should be quickly addressed, and the next step would be to think about how the situation could have been prevented. The Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, or EEOC, was established in the Civil Rights Act of 1964. EEOC is a set of laws that prohibit any form of discrimination in the workplace. The Equal Employment Opportunity Commission prevents discrimination against a person's race, color, religion, sex, national origin, age, and disability or genetic information. There are many different types of harassment in the workplace, but the three most common would be racial harassment, religious harassment, and sexual harassment. Physical and verbal harassment are also common types of harassment. However, they could be found within racial, religious, and sexual harassment. Racial harassment can be seen if one is treated in an unfair manner as a result of their race or the color of their skin. Some types of racial harassment are racial slurs or a display of racially sensitive symbols. An example of this kind of harassment would be if one were to be made fun of for the food they eat or the clothes they wear that pertain to their culture. Religious harassment is when one is treated unfairly based on their faith or how they choose to practice it. Organizations are required to make accommodations for religious practices with the exception of if it has potential to damage the company. An example of this would be giving an employee a break for them to perform their daily prayer. When most people think of harassment in the workplace, they associate it with sexual harassment. This may be because this type of harassment carries the reputation of holding the most legal consequences. Sexual harassment can range from unwanted sexual advances, requests for sexual favors, or any conduct of a sexual nature. Sexual harassment can be as apparent as unwelcoming touching or as inconspicuous as one making a sexual comment under their breath. Most companies have a zero-tolerance policy when it comes to unwanted sexual harassment. Victims of sexual harassment in the workplace are also encouraged to speak up and report it. The Equal Employment Opportunity Act covers many different types of discrimination in the workplace, one of them being sexual harassment. The EEOC sees there as being two different types of harassment, and they are a hostile work environment and quid pro quo. The term quid pro quo translates to this for that. When talking about sexual harassment, this can mean performing a sexual act in return for something else. The company then has to look at whether there was either submission or rejection of said act by an individual to determine how they should go about handling the situation. A hostile work environment may occur when an employee is subjected to harassment due to the belief that their gender interferes with their ability to perform their work in an effective manner. Although it may appear as though there is a clear line between these two forms of harassment, there is the possibility of them sometimes blending together. It's important to always report harassment that is occurring because 1. Other people may be victims of the negative behavior and too embarrassed or afraid to report it, or 2. The harasser may try saying you made it all up if you confront the issue too late, and then it becomes a he said, she said situation on who may be right. If the supervisor's harassment results in a hostile work environment, the employer can avoid liability only if it can prove that 1. It reasonably tried to prevent and promptly corrected the harassing behavior, and 2. The employee unreasonably failed to take advantage of any preventative or corrective opportunities provided by the employer. As I mentioned before, it is important that once it has been identified or reported that there was harassment in the workplace, it is addressed. It is up to the company to ensure that the victims of said harassment know that they have been heard and that the company will take steps to ensure that the same situation will not happen again. Companies can show their employees who are victims of harassment that they are heard through taking steps to prevent harassment. Some steps a company may take as a preventative measure are to set clear expectations for all employees. It is important that once these expectations are set, that employees are held accountable if they do not meet said expectations. As a preventative measure, a company can also change and improve the way they train sexual harassment to their employees. Another important factor is that once an incident report or of harassment has been filed, that it be handled and addressed in a timely manner. Harassment in the workplace is a very serious matter, and it is important that it be addressed early on and prevented in the future. Thank you for listening to my presentation, and I hope that you enjoyed learning about the different types of harassment in the workplace.